Some doors should never be opened. In the dead of night, when the wind howls through shattered windows, Waverly Hills Sanatorium calls to those foolish enough to listen. Locals say it's not just abandoned, it's alive, its halls echoing with screams that never died. Dare to step inside, and you might never leave. These are the true horrors of those who did. They say some places hold onto their pasts like a curse, the walls, the floors, the very air, stained with memories that refuse to fade. In the heart of a forgotten town in rural Ohio, there's an abandoned hospital that locals only speak of in whispers. Waverly Hills Sanatorium isn't just a building, it's a tomb for stories too dark to tell in the daylight. These are the real-life horror stories from those who dared to step inside, stories that cling to your bones long after the doors slam shut. It was 1997 when Sarah, a young urban explorer, first heard about Waverly Hills. The sanatorium had been abandoned since the early 1980s, left to rot after serving as a tuberculosis hospital and later a mental health facility. Sarah wasn't superstitious. She'd explored dozens of decaying buildings across the Midwest. But something about Waverly felt different. The locals warned her, "Don't go to room 502, she's still there." Room 502 was infamous. Decades earlier, in the 1930s, a nurse named Mary had worked in the tuberculosis ward. The hospital was overcrowded, underfunded, and the patients were wasting away, their coughs echoing through the halls like a grim symphony. Mary was young, barely 25, and devoted to her patients. But the weight of death was heavy. One night, overwhelmed by despair, or so the story goes, she hanged herself in room 502. The official report called it a suicide, but whispers among the staff suggested something darker. That Mary had been pregnant, and the father, a doctor with a reputation for cruelty, had driven her to it. Sarah ignored the warnings. Armed with a flashlight and a cheap camcorder, she slipped through a broken window into Waverly's crumbling interior. The air was thick with dust, and the smell of mildew choked her lungs. She climbed the stairs to the 5th floor, her footsteps crunching on broken glass. Room 502 was at the end of a long, dark hallway, its door slightly ajar. As Sarah approached, she heard it, a soft, rhythmic creaking, like a rope swaying under weight. Her flashlight flickered, casting jagged shadows on the walls. She pushed the door open and froze. In the center of the room, where the ceiling was cracked and stained, she saw a shadow, a silhouette of a woman, swaying gently, as if suspended. Sarah's camcorder caught it for a split second before the battery died. She ran, her screams swallowed by the hospital's endless corridors. When she later reviewed the footage, the shadow was gone, but a faint whisper could be heard. "Help me." Sarah never returned to Waverly. She swore she felt cold fingers brush her neck as she fled, and for years afterward she woke up to the sound of creaking in her dreams. Waverly Hills wasn't just for adults. During its peak, it housed a children's ward for young tuberculosis patients. The ward was meant to be a place of hope, but the reality was grim. Many children never left, their small bodies succumbing to the disease. By the time the hospital closed, the ward was a ghost of itself. Beds rusted, toys scattered, and crayon drawings faded on the walls. In 2005, a group of paranormal investigators, led by a man named Tom, set up equipment in the children's ward. They'd heard stories of laughter echoing at night, of small handprints appearing on dusty windows. Tom was skeptical but curious. His team brought audio recorders, EMF meters, and infrared cameras, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. At midnight, they began their session. The air grew colder, though the summer night outside was humid. Tom's recorder picked up faint giggles, too soft to be his team. "Hello?" he called out, his voice steady but uneasy. The giggles stopped. Then a child's voice, clear as day, whispered through the static. "Why did you leave us?" The team's EMF meter spiked, and one investigator, Lisa, felt a tug on her sleeve. She spun around, but no one was there. As they moved deeper into the ward, they found a small, tattered doll lying in the middle of the floor. None of them had seen it during their initial sweep. When Tom picked it up, the temperature plummeted, and the infrared camera caught a fleeting image of a small figure darting behind a bed. The team left at dawn, shaken. The audio recordings were later analyzed, revealing not just the child's voice, but a chorus of whispers, all saying the same thing. "Stay with us." Tom never investigated another site. He said the children's ward felt alive, as if the walls themselves were pleading for company. In 2018, a security guard named Carl was hired to patrol Waverly's grounds. The hospital was privately owned by then, used for occasional tours and paranormal events. But trespassers were a constant problem. Carl worked the night shift, walking the perimeter with a flashlight and a radio. He'd been told about the hospital's history, but dismissed it as superstition. One night, while checking the fourth floor, Carl saw a man in a white coat standing at the end of a hallway. Thinking it was a trespasser, he called out, "Hey, you can't be here." The figure didn't move. Carl approached, his flashlight illuminating a tall, gaunt man with hollow eyes and a surgical mask pulled down below his chin. The man's coat was stained and his hands were gloved, holding a scalpel that gleamed in the light. Carl froze. The air felt wrong, like it was pressing against his chest. The man in the white coat smiled, a slow, unnatural grin, and stepped forward. Carl's radio crackled, and a voice, not his dispatcher's, whispered, "He's watching you." Carl ran, his boots pounding against the floor. When he looked back, the hallway was empty, but the scalpel lay on the ground, clean and sharp. Carl quit the next day. He later learned that a doctor from the hospital's mental health days had been notorious for experimental surgeries, often without anesthesia. Patients called him the Butcher. Carl refused to return to Waverly, convinced the doctor was still practicing in the shadows. Waverly Hills. Sanatorium stands silent now, its windows dark, its halls empty. But those who've been inside know the truth. It's never truly abandoned. The nurse in room 502, the children in the ward, the souls in the body chute, the doctor with his scalpel, the unseen patient. They're all still there, waiting. Some say the hospital feeds on fear, that every visitor leaves a piece of themselves behind. So, if you ever find yourself near those crumbling walls, ask yourself, are you brave enough to step inside, or will you listen to the whispers and run?